Hello there, dear YouTubers. My name is King1993, and today is another day of me trying to talk about something which will be eventually released this year, okay? And it is called the Tower of Fantasy. Now, Tower of Fantasy, for many Genshin players, okay, they are fed up with Genshin because it is non-competitive, a role-playing game, Genshin Impact that is. Obviously, both of these are open world, except Genshin is more of a single player role playing game, whereas Genshin Impact, sorry, Tower of Fantasy is gonna be a MMO RPG type of game. Okay, now that is not the main point. The main point is we have heard from many places, from the YouTube, from the internet, that this game is gonna be launching in the third quarter of this year. Now, third quarter comes from July, August, and September. August or September. So if we were to talk about July, August, and September, obviously it is July. And can we say with 100% surety, obviously it is going to be releasing or not? Well, let's talk about that. If we go to the second page, in the second page, we can see that there are this number. Okay. And what is this number? This number is basically an indication of how many players is currently registered to this game. So there are total 1.7 million, or let's say 1.8 millions of total players who have registered to this game. Now obviously at 2.5 million there is going to be a lot more players, and the more the player in the game, the more fun it is going to be. Like, competitiveness is a very important topic about game, especially when it comes to online game. Now when it comes to offline game, obviously the competitive of those games are very different compared to the competitiveness of open world game, especially like uh, Tower of Fantasy. Okay, now Tower of Fantasy said that we'll be getting all of these rewards only when there are going to be 2.5 million players. So we'll be needing another 700,000 players to actually go to this 2.5 million number. Now, here is the thing. Why is there these two zeros? Okay, like, this is an indication of 10 million, and this is an indication of 100 million. So the question remains is, why is there 100 million numbers written here, like a position given here? Like, I have no idea. Okay, so anyway, the question remains is the game good? Obviously the game is good, but why am I thinking that the game might be pushed back a little bit if this number is not reached? Well, here is the thing. Back when Genshin was about to release, not many players were interested in how this game actually worked. But after it has been released, obviously many people played it, and the average active player in Genshin Impact is at 62 million in the month of June of 2022. Okay, so in 2022, there are total 62 million active player, is a lot. Okay, so that is a lot of players. So if I were to compare this in the Google Trends, and if I were to compare this Tower of Fantasy with Genshin Impact, you will see that at the beginning, obviously there was no Tower of Fantasy. uh Wait, oh, sorry about that. It is a 1 year mark. Okay, so at the last year, July, that is, the Tower of Fantasy search result was less than uh 100 compared to Genshin. Okay, but compared to this year, okay, compared to this year July, we can probably see that the amount of Genshin compared to Tower of Fantasy, the total search result in, okay, let's talk about June, not July. Okay, so when I compare the total number of search being done on Tower of Fantasy and Genshin, we can see that about uh, 50% uh, less search being done on Genshin Impact compared to last year. Okay, so obviously there is a certain change which is happening. So I do not know what type of change it is happening. All I can say that some people, many people which are interested in Tower Fantasy are definitely gonna try Tower Fantasy. Also, another reason why many people might want to try for Tower Fantasy is because in Tower of Fantasy, the total amount of pulls that you need to do to get a certain characters, okay, these are called characters, and these are called simulacrum. Simulacrum are basically virtual data of a character which already once existed, and these characters are basically the character which you will be interacting with at the beginning of your game. They are live character, and some of the simulacrum are basically dead character. This is basically what it means. So when it comes to the SSR is the rarest of the type. It is gonna take about 80 pull to summon a character. And in order to get those character, you just need to get their weapons, and then you can basically upgrade those weapons up to 7 time, I think. So when you get a certain weapon up to 7 time, you can basically unlock all of the potential of those characters or the weapon. So what does it mean? It means compared to Genshin in Tower Fantasy, the total amount of pull you must need to do is 80 pulls, and the PT system is 80 PT. There is no need for you to do about 180 pulls in Genshin, where there is a 50-50 chance of winning or losing. Okay, so from that point of perspective, people will be who are interested in games that are basically cheap to play or cheap to use real world currency. They will be seeing, okay, if I can get more collection out of a game which will basically provide me with a lot more materials with less the amount of money, then why would I spend a large quantity of money on a game which is not even competitive? So what I am basically trying to say is that obviously Tower of Fantasy and Genshin Impact are two different types of game. As I said, one is gonna be competitive, which is a Tower of Fantasy, and Genshin Impact is gonna be single player single player role playing game. Okay, so from that point of perspective, those who like competitiveness, what will happen is that many of the player from Genshin who like competitiveness, fast action, whatever you call it, they are going to be coming to this place here. So what I am saying is, if you think of it from a technical point of view, launching a game at a finest moment is the moment when a lot of players are going to be playing it at the same time, compared to a game which you will be playing but the players amount are so little that obviously the game loses its value. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, let me give you an example. So if I were to talk about a certain game which I upload on my YouTube channel, and that game is called Super Mecha Champion. Okay, now Super Mecha Champion, the active player in the Android and the iOS version, let's just say in the mobile version, the active players in the mobile version are a lot, like 10 or 20,000 players are basically playing every day, which is a good thing compared to the Steam version. In the Steam version, there are less than 500 players active one day. Okay, so when you compare 20,000 versus 500 player, obviously what will happen is people will lose interest. Okay, so let me give you Steam charts. So if I go to Steam charts and let's say I write here Super Mecha, okay, Super Mecha Champion. Here, as you can see here, the current active player, which was updated about 30 minutes ago, is 453 players. With so little player, I cannot play many of the modes. Like there is Team Deathmatch, there is many other types of modes. The only modes which are going to be available when there are very less players is the battle royale. Now I do not play a certain game for only one type of game playing option. I play a certain game if it were to be providing me a lot more option. So from that point of perspective, the Super Mega Champion game, especially the mobile version, I would play a lot if I were to have a capable phone, which I do not have. But when it comes to this PC version, I am gonna stop playing this game because I have gotten to a point that I do not enjoy the game because the total amount of players there are so little that you can basically remember of all of the players which are currently available in the Steam account, to the point that I know their tactics, I know how they play, and I can overall say to my teammates of which type of tactics to use, and the competitiveness overall goes away. Whereas in the mobile version, it is so high that you can play it for many years without any problem. Okay, so what am I trying to say? I'm saying that a game which is made by Nexon, I do not know. Sorry, NetEase. Okay, a game which has been made by NetEase Games. Okay, the only problem they did made when they released the PC version was they didn't try to advertise it. They didn't try to pull a lot of players from many other player base. Okay, what they did, they just made the PC version and released in the PC version, and people are just overall frustrated. Like, why just make a PC version and not advertise it? Whereas the Super Mega Champion mobile version, they didn't do that much advertising either, but the mobile version is a lot more popular compared to the PC version. So from that point of perspective, I think, okay, that Tower of Fantasy is going to be having the same issue. The if I think if the total active player were to not reach 2.5 million, I don't think this game is going to be launching within that time. So what I'm trying to say is, since more than 50% of the players has been registered, okay, I hope, okay, let's see if the number increase if I refresh the page. Okay, so the number remained the same. So what I'm trying to say is that if within the next 2 months, if the total amount of players were to increase to this 2.5 million, then we can say with 100% surety that the game will definitely launch. Okay, so this is my point of perspective. So if you think that my point of perspective is shallow-minded, narrow-minded, bad-minded, or whatever it is called, then obviously do leave a comment in the comment section so that I'll be able to know which part did I miss. Okay, so that I'll be able to understand whether should I be making this type of video or not, because it is a controversial type of video. Obviously, I am waiting for Tower of Fantasy because I hate playing Genshin Impact, because getting a character is more important than upgrading the character. Okay, for many people, for especially player like me who play the uh, game because the game is free is the very most important thing. Like, I in my life never actually expected a game to be actually free to play. Okay, if games are free to play, then obviously I'll play them, but obviously not the type of game which I would not like. Okay, and since Tower of Fantasy overall gameplay style, story, as well as the traveling mechanism in the open world are unique in a good way. Like the traveling mechanism in uh, Tower of Fantasy is even better than Genshin Impact. Okay, so if a game like this obviously comes out, the question remains is, okay, what is my first priority? My first priority is to get as much as characters as I can, compete with other player, defeat other players, or let's say get more score than other players. Like, this is a competitiveness which basically happens to many of the people of the gamer community, because when we are unable to compete in real life, what we try to do is to increase our overall esteem using the game. And obviously, I'm not saying that is a good thing. I'm saying that overall the competitiveness of the game will increase more player to come to the game and enjoy the game, instead of doing something like, if you go and type here uh, uh spiral abyss fastest fast FSD fastest spiral abyss fastest win. Okay, you will see that there are many different ways you can beat the spiral abyss, to the point that you'll be doing it so fast that you the only thing which will remain afterwards is to compare yours overall result with others, where You are basically comparing the results with other in YouTube and not in the game itself. So basically speaking, there is no additional rewards if you were to complete it faster. Okay, if you get up to 36 stars in the spiral abyss, then it basically means you have completed the spiral abyss a lot easier. But other than that, if you were to do it for the competitive purpose, it is more of a bragging point than a competitive purpose, because what basically happens is there are a lot of YouTubers who basically says this is the fastest way to clear the spiral abyss, but in general you are not getting any other extra benefit out of it. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say, that in Genshin Impact the problem is it is a single player open world RPG type of game, whereas in Tower Fantasy it is going to be uh, multiplayer RPG, but also at the same time, if you want player versus player, the option is also available. Okay, so anyway, if you like this video, then please give a like and subscribe and click the bell notification icons to get more of this type of topic on a regular basis. Thank you and see you again next time.